contemplated making this video for a while, but with the recent exposure of so many things in the hip-hop community, in cooperation with the declining decency of the youth,
my coochie pink.
Okay, thank you.
People are starting to ask more questions. People want more answers. And I feel it is the duty of those who know the truth to expose the truth. For you Gen X and baby boomers, most of you already know this. But for the ones who don't, understanding the purpose of hip-hop will help you further understand its demise. In the early 1970s, DJ Kool Herc discovered by putting two turntables together, he could play two songs at once, mixing beats, extending the drum and percussion break of the song, and rapping over it. From that, we were given a new genre of music, hip-hop. The likes of Africa Bambaataa, Kool Moe Dee, Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Flash, Run DMC, Public Enemy, and many more. For years, artists out of the black communities put out music that everyone loved. There was no recruiting of gang members through music. There was no influence to harm your brother. It was literally the opposite. These guys paved the way for hip-hop, with the intent of it being something positive for their community.
How did you feel about what you guys were doing versus gangster rap at that time?
Well, let me say this. One thing about Public Enemy and our music, we always wrote about problems that was going on in the neighborhood, but at the same time, within the same record, we try to come up with the solution. Our records really had messages.
No, it didn't stop gangs or gang violence. It didn't stop drug sellers or drug users. But what it did stop is all these things from becoming one thing, the very thing they are today.
Cool.
The youth in the black communities were already struggling to stay away from gangs. And while there were some gangster MCs, a majority of them at the time found more success in spreading a positive message. And it wasn't just for black folk. Everyone enjoyed this new culture called hip-hop. It brought all people together in a time where we as people really needed it. The nation was divided, and this new culture was uniting us. It was said by the famous Chuck D, hip-hop was like the black CNN. We used this powerful genre of music to awaken those in our community. But that was all about to change. We start to get into the mid-90s, and the old heads start to take notice of something. A drastic shift begins to take place in hip-hop.
And then you had a conscious kind of hip-hop as well. You had Poor Righteous Teachers, KRS-One, PE was getting ready to come into the fray, you know what I mean? So hip-hop was a lot more conscious during that time. And then, of course, the 90s came in, and there was too much consciousness going on in hip-hop at that time for the powers that be. So here comes gangster rap. All right, take off the medallions, you know what I mean? Stop all that peace and unity, and let's do some hoes and cocaine and gang banging.
That's changed. They want to know how I feel about it.
Did that bother you?
Yes, it did.
Really?
Yes, it did.
The depictions of Sambos and pickaninnies and all these other sort of, with the big red lips and the dark skin and the watermelon in the mouth. I mean, these are all things that black folk fought against. I remember watching, this was probably around 2003, when BET used to have BET Uncut. And they would play that Nelly video, Tip Drill. And I remember, like it was yesterday, I shouldn't because, you know, but I still remember it. And when he swiped the credit card down the woman's backside, and she started to shake it up and down. And I'm saying to myself, now if a white rapper did this, all hell would break loose. And to your point, Jason, one of the things that's evidently clear to me is that even the most pro-blackity black folks still care more about what white people say about us than what we say about ourselves.
At a time, if you were a conscious rapper, you couldn't even get a record deal anymore because hip hop wasn't going that way no more. Okay. And that's directly from that gangster rap era, that gangster rap mentality, and the people who were in charge of hip hop at that time. They totally deaded the cultural side of hip hop.
What did you think of NWA?
NWA, I thought they were great for what they were doing, but I thought they was a definite detriment to our people, the message they were giving out, our people, the message they were giving out.
In the mid to early 80s, a fella by the name of Schoolie D drops our first gangster rap song. Wasn't gangster enough for Ice Cube and Dr. Dre. So in 1987, Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, and a couple others, with the help of Jerry Heller, officially on paper formed NWA under Ruthless Records. And I'm not blaming NWA for the destruction of our people by any means. These were young guys trying to get their money, telling stories about life in the hood. But it is the foundation of gangster rap. These guys merged music and gangs like never before, using the very essence of hip-hop culture to wage a war amongst its own people.
Any artists out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
East Coast don't love Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Death Row. Y'all don't love us. Y'all don't love us. So let it be known then. You know y'all East Coast. You know who we at. East Coast.
West Coast versus East Coast. Little did they know this would be the beginning of the end.
I kind of realized how powerful Tupac and I was. You know what I'm saying? Because we two individual people, we waged a coastal beef. You know what I'm saying? One man against one man made a whole West Coast hate a whole East Coast and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? And that really bugged me out. Like, yo, Duke don't like me, so this whole coast don't like me.
The Big Six consist of the 6 major record labels that dominated the music industry from the 70s throughout the 90s. We're going to focus on the 3 biggest of the 6, Warner, Sony, and Universal. These labels took a particular interest in the gangster rap scene in the 90s. They also took a particular interest in the prison systems in the 90s. Collectively, for the last 30 years, these 3 music group labels have put out the most destructive, degrading hip-hop music in the black community, gatekeeping the opportunity for anyone to become something by expressing themselves through hip-hop culture and only allowing those who add to this demise a chance. See, it's not that degrading music is the only thing that hip-hop culture has to offer. It's that degrading music is the only thing the hip-hop culture has been allowed to offer for the last 30 years. The 90s was flooded with gangster rap. This new wave of music had taken over, as new artists arose to defend their gangs and rap lyrics, glorifying material assets while doing so. They had effectively gained the undivided attention of the youth with no competition. Gang violence erupted. Prisons saw an immediate increase, and the plan was formed.
The secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation. In early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen. Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign the confidentiality agreement, preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on matters and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but could not find anyone who had the answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. Nobody stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me.
That's right.
A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected all the agreements from us. Shortly after this meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but that was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industries and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable in the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who received funding from the government based on the number of inmates.
Mm-hmm.
The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons.
Mm-hmm.
It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, things became chaotic.
Right.
Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun, and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd, and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague, who opened up the meeting earlier, hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking out guilty, because he said as he sat back and he watched these plans come to a reality
over 2 decades,
he sat back and was like, wow, they really pulled it off.
Yeah.
They really pulled this off. He was like, they were told not to sign any more political rappers, any more rappers that had messages in their music.
No positivity.
It was all to be gangster rap music that they promoted and put out.
Let's take rap music.
Let's take it.
Same people who own the labels own the prisons. So
literally the same people?
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons. So you know, it seems really kind of suspicious, if you want to say that word.
Man, yeah, it's crazy because it's kind of like, okay, let's make all the dudes criminals and all the women hoes.
Right. Criminals are gay.
Yeah, you know, and it's crazy. It's like, and I seen something the other day. It's like, bro, it's just wild. Like just the agendas they pushing. Just like,
As we get into the mid-90s to early 2000s, artists have started a trend. Instead of being the artist, the guy who signs the artist can potentially make more money. So new labels were popping up every day. But these labels for years, and still to this very day, had to go through one of the major 3 record labels to distribute their music. So the plan was set. Suge Knight, owner of Death Row Records, along with Jay Prince, owner of Rap-A-Lot Records, Irv Gotti, owner of Murder Inc., Master P, owner of No Limit Records, and Jay-Z and Dame Dash, owners of Rockefeller Records, devised a plan to start hip-hop's first black-owned distribution company.
The black distribution situation back in the 2000s, this was the idea that was generated by Simon A.K. Suge, right? And the reason why I'm speaking on this and I'm able to speak on it is because I was there, bro. I was at the round table. I attended a few meetings with him personally. I flew out of state with him a couple of times. And during this time, this is what Simon Suge had came up with this idea, bro. Like, you know, we need to cut out the middleman. We need to cut out these Jews, man, and cut them all the way out the mix to where we do our own distributing. We become our own distributor. We become our own manufacturer, our own promoters. We doing everything as is, besides them putting up the money for promotion and distributing. Then we're carrying all the weight. We're doing most of the work. Then why not do it all? So we came up with this concept, black distributors. So being the fact that Death Row, Rap-A-Lot, Murder Inc., No Limit, I'm leaving out one. It was one more because it was 5. Rockefeller. Those main 5 that I just named, Simon came up with this concept, this idea, bro. We should become black distributors and bring all of these main CEOs together who's running these prominent companies right now that's independent, who's selling millions and millions of records. We all come together, bro, and distribute our own music and distribute and package our own shit.
Cutting out those financially benefiting off the talents of hip-hop while only promoting destructive behaviors to the youth. Once again, financially benefiting off the imprisonment of our community through invested gains. Today, hip-hop is basically a $10 billion industry. Just think about that for a second. A $10 billion industry making its way back into the black community. By us, for us. Well, what happened, you ask? Are you wondering who stopped it? Who's responsible for keeping the nation's most profitable genre of music in the hands of a bunch of people that don't look like us, that don't care about us?
Jigga blew the whistle. He snitched. He told them he would have told them people, man, and all hell broke loose.
You think there was somebody deliberately out to shut y'all down?
And what was it y'all were doing? Trying to set up distribution?
Yeah, we had a meeting. Yeah, we wanted to create our own black-owned distribution company.
Wow.
So we had a meeting of the minds, met in L.A., and it wasn't long after, I feel like the feds attacked each of us. Wow. You know what I mean? That's the conspiracy from, not only from a distribution point of view, you know, they had their reasons, but definitely you know, we all saw what happened to Death Row. We saw how they attacked Murder Inc. And, you know, they tried to kill me, so.
How many betrayals we talked about with Jay? This ain't the first one, but this the first one we talking about because the only one affected us. So for me, I'm like, big deal. He fucks everybody over. Jermaine Dupri's stupid for listening to him. That's what I think. We all know Jay. So once he did what he did, how he did Rockefeller, why do you think he'd do anything else? That's Jay. Those principles don't mean anything. Jay runs with the bag, period. That's it. All right, cool. So if you fuck with that man, that's on you. I'm not going to be a wet, wounded duck and be like, oh, this nigga, you know, he played Rockefeller, he played Biggs, he played everybody. No, we all know he did that. Y'all just wasn't saying shit about it. We all know what Jay did and how he did it. You know, there is no more Rockefeller. Rockefeller was rolling. Is there a Rockefeller now?
No.
Who benefited from this?
Him.
So he went that way, the way where, you know, he does things this way, and all his friends end up working for him, and I go this way where the people I love end up being my partners. But what I am mad about is I haven't seen a Reasonable Doubt royalty in like 10 fucking years. I can say that. And I want to know where my money is.
This man literally sold us out. He took a small piece of the pie and gave them everything. I mean, yeah, he's worth $2.5 billion. But what's that when you single-handedly turned over a $10 billion a year industry? Let alone to a bunch of opossum-looking motherfuckers. And I do mean opossum. They look like the possums you say with the O. But seriously, this nigga owes us everything. He was awarded all the things he has today because he decided he would rather destroy the plan to take hip-hop back by alerting the major record labels of what was about to take place. Jay-Z is literally the reason why hip-hop is in the condition it's in today.
People that don't look like us and not part of our community are making billions to trillions of dollars off of our creation, our Black American creation, right? Our hip hop creation, that's ours. Our R&B. And listen, they literally had a plan to dumb down hip hop to the point where it's at now. If you take the hip hop from even the time of No Limit to now, it's like, what in the world happened? This is what happens when we, as a Black community, allow other groups to have any kind of control over our creation. When we talk about delineation and all that conversation, what comes with delineation is taking back our creations and owning them. You can't have a culture without owning your culture. If you go to other people who's outside of your culture to allow you to practice and do the different things that come from your culture and from your people, then you're letting people benefit off of something they can't create. There's no people outside of our community who runs these labels can get on a microphone and do anything like any artist that you may like right now. None of them can. But yet they can sit back, they can say, no, you can't put out that music, put out this music. Do you remember that video from Irv Gotti where he talked about Lear Cohen? And he said that, hey, they thought it was a good record, but he said, no, that's not street enough. Wait a minute. Lear Cohen is not part of our community. You think Irv Gotti and Ja Rule and them couldn't make a decision about what they want to put out? But you having people outside our community saying what should be this, what should be that. People outside our community is pushing the filth. I know we'll point to Sexy Red, we'll point to this and we'll point to that one. And yes, they do have a responsibility too. But let's call it what it is. Let's go back to our brother Michael Jackson. Do you remember that song, They Don't Really Care About Us? Do you remember the original version of that song? That part where he was talking about a certain group of people, and you know the people I'm talking about. We on YouTube, we gotta be careful with that, with those people. A certain group of people, and they said, no, he cannot put this part out. He has to remix, he has to change this and put it back out. But it's okay if a Black person come out and talk about harming Black people in music, dealing drugs to Black people in music, disrespecting Black women in music, trying to break the spirit of Black people in music. That's okay. Put that out. But every time an artist, prime example, Kanye, he have a song on his Vultures album. And he mentioned that particular group of people. And he said he wasn't against them because basically he would sleep with them, right? And they're like, oh no, he can't put that. But he can sit up here and talk about Black women all day. But this is what happens when you let other groups of people outside our community, no matter what group they come from, it don't matter. This is what happens.
Yo. That's it for the video, y'all.
I hope y'all enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly than doing any of that, share, share, share. This type of information, we have to get out there. Everyone needs to know this. Everyone needs to see this. I know y'all love Jay-Z, but at the end of the day, this type of information is what's important. We can't move forward as a people if, we don't correct the past. This the Lake Show. I'll catch you on the next one.
I'm out.